There was a military anime that was catching the community by storm last spring, an adaptation of a famous light novel by Asato adapted by Studio A1. The anime was called the 8686, and for some reason, despite seemingly checking all the boxes for it, I kind of didn't watch it. Well, that's wrong. I watched like 3 episodes while airing, and I didn't think it would go beyond the basic level of the idea it was trying to present, but boy was I dead wrong. 8686, I don't know why they repeat the name twice, is an anime centered around a young woman who has to constantly command groups of soldiers that go on suicide missions every day, so she and her Aryan society can live a cushy life within protected walls. Well, that's kinda how it goes, but saying 86 is just that would be a disservice to this story. The first half of the first season, you know what, I'm just gonna call it season 1 for clarity's sake, is about a young woman named Lena, a rising major for a nation named the Republic. She, along with everyone else in the 85 districts within this republic, have light skin, white hair and grey eyes, and are known as the Alba. They live oddly artificial lives, jovially going about life like the raging racists they are. You see, the Republic's been fighting a constant war against the Legion, which is basically a ginormous army of killing machines that are led by sentient robots, but I'll get into that later. The Republic repeatedly informs the public that there have been 0 human casualties while fighting the Legion in order to keep the peace, but Lena knows about the dark side of the war. The Republic fights the Legion by employing drones, which are also killing machines, although this time they're piloted by people who aren't Alba. People who have been removed from the 85 districts and sent to District 86, where they're forced to go on suicide missions day in and day out, knowing that even though they're technically promised freedom, the only freedom they'll ever receive is the sweet release of death. The fighters in the 86 district are called drones by the Alba and are seen as subhuman by the Alba pigs that run the military. The way the 86 are controlled and commanded are via Para-Raid, which is an earpiece that allows an Alba commander to speak to everyone within a specific unit within the 86. The Para-Raid basically syncs their minds together, which means the Alba commander, known as the Handler, also hears and experiences the cruel deaths of all the innocent people they're sending to war. Lena is one of these handlers, and at the beginning of the series, we see that she's placed within a particularly hardy unit that refuses to go down called the Spearhead Squadron. This squadron of 86 is led by Shinei, better known as Undertaker, an 86 who seemingly refuses to die and carries on the wishes of his comrades after they perish on the battlefield. Lena, however, I bet you didn't see this coming, she's different from most Alba handlers, as in, she has a human conscience and isn't some deranged ball of hatred like the other Alba are. She's constantly trying to look out for the Spearhead Squadron, asking for more materials for them and hoping to ensure their safety to no avail. At the beginning, the Spearhead Squadron despises Lena, as they should, as they've been through their fair share of handlers who treated them like disposable garbage. The Spearhead Squadron themselves have been fighting on the battlefield for almost 5 years now, piloting the Juggernauts to fight off hordes of Legion. They're basically a family, playing games together, eating together, naming pets together, and living a somewhat normal life until it's time to go to death. Throughout the first season, we see members of the Spearhead Squadron go down one by one while Lena helplessly watches and listens, thinking that she's helping them, when in reality, she's just using her sense of justice to act like she's doing her absolute best for her squad, when she isn't even bothering to learn their names in the first place. Lena gets called out for this by the Spearhead Squadron, and is told to leave repeatedly, but she sticks around like the main character she is, sticking her neck out for the Spearhead Squadron despite the numerous deaths and dwindling numbers. Now, Lena's one main character, but I do think things would get a bit boring if you only saw stuff from her perspective, so let's start talking about the other main character of the series, and the main reason why people watch 86 in the first place, Undertaker. He's the best character in 86 by far, like it isn't even close. I'm not saying the other characters are bad, but Undertaker is simply that good. As the leader of the Spearhead Squadron, it's his job to make sure his comrades leave peacefully, which means executing them before they die so their minds aren't stolen by the Legion. Now you might be saying, what do you mean their minds aren't stolen? You know how I mentioned the Legion being somewhat sentient? That's how. They take the minds of fallen 86 and use their dysfunctional, angry, and regret-filled brains to pilot these war machines and destroy everything in their path. Their screams of pain can be heard by Shinei, so you can understand why this dude is so detached and depressed. I won't mention what his overall goal is in the first season, since that's kind of a spoiler, but it has to do with a certain mind in a certain Legion that he needs to take down using Lena's help. Honestly, I can't go that much further into the plot without spoiling, so I might make a follow-up video where I can talk about the events of season 1 and 2 without a worry if you guys want me to. But without spoilers, I can safely say that 86 was way better than I expected. The first couple of episodes didn't instill much confidence in me, as it was very black and white as to who the good and bad guys were, and the message seemingly was set up to be, oh no, racism bad, don't use people for suicide missions, oh no. And the setup was looking like Lena being the golden hand that led the 86 into freedom and equality. Thankfully, there was more nuance involved as the series went on. We got to see through Lena how unbelievably corrupt the Republic is, and how just one person can't change the way an entire military thinks, let alone an entire group of people. We also get to see the troubling lives of the 86 and how justified their hatred is. Seeing Lena trying to form bonds with them by learning their names and more of them in general instead of treating them like disposable killing machines was very nice to see, and it made the eventual deaths of a lot of the 86 hit a lot harder. I also very much loved how Lena's trauma through hearing the death and despair of the 86 that she had grown to love affected her, and how it first crumbled her but eventually made her into a much stronger person. The radio cutting off and turning into static as people died was an extremely good touch as well, and the sound design for the comms Lena had to manage was portrayed extremely well and showed how much mental strain she had to go go through when it came to taking the extra mile for the Spearhead Squadron. This goes both ways as well, as we got to see the Spearhead Squadron and Undertaker slowly but surely accept her. Even when Lena isn't even in the picture, they're always constantly thinking about her, as Lena does for them as well. I can't really say too much past this for spoiler's sake, but Lena's evolution has been very nice to see, and Undertaker's character just gets better and better. I really enjoyed seeing how he feels internally, especially in season 2, going from someone who's seemingly stoic and lifeless to someone who's always thinking they're left behind with no purpose to serve, as he keeps accomplishing his violent goals and is always left behind by his comrades due to their deaths. I also love the utilization of red spider lilies to symbolize the death of Shin's comrades. There was an incredible moment for both Undertaker and Lena's characters at the end of season 2, which had 2 episodes that left me speechless. I also really enjoyed the expanded world building in season 2 as well, but again, I can't really get too far into that. In terms of the anime itself, it's Studio A1, so it wasn't really a question as to whether or not it'll look good. They truly never miss, and they hit the mark again for 86. The series is directed by Toshimasa Ishii, who's done work on Erased, Anohana, and The Promised Neverland. Character design is handled by Tetsuya Kawakami, who also works as chief animation director. Kawakami's done extensive work for SAO and Full Metal Alchemist, and the character designs and corrections hit the mark for 86. Music, which is easily one of the best parts of 86, with unique insert songs and everything, is done by the legendary Hiroyuki Sawano, the man behind Attack on Titan's incredible soundtrack. I also want to mention Hiroyuki Yoshida, the CGI director, as the CGI used in 86 for the Legion and all the other mechs were done incredibly well and didn't look wonky at all. The show always looked consistently incredible, which makes me hopeful for a season 2 that has just as good of a production schedule. Overall, I definitely recommend 86 for anyone into military shows or political action anime in general. Though the themes and ideas presented may seem a little basic at first, the characters in combat are really good, and the show definitely picks up in season 2. So if y'all decide to give it a try, let me know. And thank you to the subscriber who recommended this show to me. If there's any other anime you guys want me to watch, just leave it in the comments below.